everyone, today I wanted to share some tips that I have found really helpful in coping with anxiety as an author. And I think that anxiety is really common in general, but particularly within the author community and even more so within the indie author community. The reason I think that is, as an indie, you are responsible for all of the decisions around your book. Whereas, not saying that you wouldn't feel anxious as a traditionally published author, but somebody else who has more experience in the industry will take care of some of the tasks. As an indie, everything comes back to you and you can start to worry that you haven't done it right, you haven't made the right decision or whatever that might be. I also think that as creatives in general, we have a tendency to look at the world around us. We are sensitive to how people act, how people interact, people's emotions, our own emotions. We overthink things, and that's what makes us amazing creatives, but that can also mean that anxiety is, I think, relatively common amongst us creative types. So I've come up with a list of 6 tips that I have found really helpful in dealing with anxiety, mental health. It felt like a really good time to share this because the book project that I'm about to announce soon, that I've been working on for the last year, it's probably the best that I've ever coped with the anxiety surrounding all of the different aspects of a book project, and that's because of doing these things. So it felt like a good time to share. I have made a video on tips for coping with anxiety as an author before, but I wanted to update it because I feel like this is really working for me, and if it works for me, then there's every chance it might work for somebody else. I'm not an expert. I don't have any qualifications that are relevant here. I have a bachelor's in marine biology, so unless you're a fish, I don't think that any of this is coming from a place of professional expertise. I also have a degree in education, and mental health is not really covered. We could discuss that, but we're not going to. Right, my first point is to have a routine. So for me, I have an advantage. I would say there's pros and cons to that advantage. So if we're looking super positively at this, that I have young kids. So my youngest is 6, and so I have to work when they are at school. That makes me have to have a routine and work within set hours. I'm one of those people that naturally would probably procrastinate until about 2 in the afternoon, start work, and then probably work for 12 hours until 2 a.m. That's me, that's how I work, but I can't do that because I have to pick my kids up at 3 and, it's not going to work. So it makes me have to just get on with it. I don't find that especially easy to do, but it does force me to have a routine, and I really recommend having set hours during your days that are designated, or your times that are designated as writing times, that those hours are put aside and that you don't let all of this work kind of just ooze into the rest of your life. It's very easy as somebody who is self-employed to never stop. So, have those work hours and stick to that routine. But also within that routine, I think within those set hours, I think it's helpful to have a routine of how you move through your day. I'm somebody who procrastinates quite naturally, as I've already said. So I find it helpful to tackle either the biggest tasks or the ones that I find the most difficult to get into first. That's really helpful for my mental health because then I have a sense of achievement that I've done that thing. After it's done, I can then do all the other little things that I find more enjoyable or more accessible, I suppose. So checking my emails, doing social media, little, making a thing on Canva or whatever, the small things. When I used to work the other way around, what it meant is that I would not get to the big tasks. So then by the end of the day, I felt frustrated that I hadn't finished it, and then that would add to my anxiety. So I think it's really helpful to figure out how you work and the best way to separate your time up throughout whatever work hours you have designated. It really gives you that separation between work and not work, and it also gives you that sense at the end of the day that you've done a good day's work, you've achieved everything that you could. Stops that frustration with yourself, and I think that's really, really important. It kind of adds into my second one, which is that I think it's important to have a cut-off time. Again, I am somebody who naturally works later. I will push everything till the end of the day and then go into hyper-focus. So the trouble with that is that even with the kids, I had got into a habit of working after they'd gone to bed, because when they were small, I was balancing writing, teaching. I did a master's degree. I don't recommend doing that when the kids were little. So I got used to having to take advantage of the little snippets of time. What that means is that you don't really have, again, that separation, but also the rest time, the opportunity to just let everything simmer down and stop worrying about it. So for me, typically I do finish at 3 when I go to pick up the kids. Occasionally, once they're home, if they're doing bits and pieces, I might do another half an hour. My absolute cut-off time is 6 p.m. At that point, I won't open the laptop again. I'll even avoid using my laptop for other, like, leisure, like watching YouTube on it or whatever, talking to some friends on Zoom or something. I will use my phone as a preference. The reason for that is I open the laptop, maybe my files are open, maybe my emails are open, maybe I receive an email and then I'm worrying about it and I want to deal with it now instead of leaving it. So typically it's laptop closed and I won't look at it, and I try to keep those working hours. I spent years not doing that, so I definitely think that this is a step that's really helped my mental health. If I do that thing of just a few tasks in the evening, I'll have a tendency to then get on to it keeps going and going. Also, the problem is that you can end up where you're dealing with something that for whatever reason it triggers your anxiety, or you're just enjoying something and your head is really firing with creative ideas. When you then want to rest, it's really hard to get that separation. It affects your downtime with your family. It also affects your sleep. And sleep is so important. So if you're trying to get to sleep and you're still thinking about your work, it's really unhelpful. So having that time where you say, okay, from this point, I'm not looking at any writer type stuff, really, really helps. Now, I don't mind having social media still on my phone. Nothing on there ever makes me feel anxious, or very rarely. So for me, it's the actual practical work stuff that I need to keep to those certain times, but I don't have my work emails going to my phone, and there are lots of people who won't have their social media work accounts on their personal phone. So whatever separation you need to preserve your mental health is really important. So after that cut off, that's it. You're not dealing with it, you're not at work anymore, and you can just enjoy whatever it is that you want to do of an evening to wind down, so then you can rest and you can sleep, and then the next day you're better prepared. Sometimes I will think of something and think, oh, I really should do that. What I find is the best way to deal with that. I sometimes do go and deal with it, and I shouldn't. The best way to actually cope with that is to just make a note of it and deal with it the next day. Don't get into that whole working thing. As soon as the laptop's open, it can spiral. So I think have your cut-off time, be really strict with yourself, and don't just do this little thing. For me, it's been really, really helpful. My third one is to get outside or vary your working location, or both. So this is kind of my movement tip. So an advantage of the kids is that I walk them to school, and that gets me out in the fresh air, it gets me moving, and I think that's really good for my mental health. If I was just at home all day, and sometimes that happens, I feel a bit lethargic and sluggish, my brain isn't working at its best capacity. I find that frustrating. That can lead into my kind of anxiety that I haven't worked well enough, I haven't been productive enough, I'm annoyed with myself. So I do think it's really helpful to get moving, ideally get outside. If I'm really tired, I will go for a run. I know it's not for everybody, but for me, that really wakes me up. Everybody has their thing. So whatever it is for you, getting your body moving, getting your blood flowing, ideally getting outside if you can, I think it really, really helps. Equally throughout the day, rather than just sitting at your slightly messy desk, hunched over a laptop, it's very easy. I can sit and do that for hours upon hours upon hours. It's not very good for your physical or mental health. So it's helpful even just to get up. I might just go and do some jobs, tidy up, you know, potter around for, I don't know why I'm so pointy, I apologise. Potter around for a few minutes, maybe do some housework, maybe sort out some washing, whatever, but just get a change of scenery. I also don't always work here. I will sometimes work in the living room, I'll sometimes work in my bedroom, so I'll vary where I am. If you typically are at home a lot, I find it really helpful to try and work elsewhere. So go to a coffee shop, go to a co-working space, go and work with another friend. The accountability of having other people there is really helpful. When I go and work in a coffee shop, thing is, it makes it a bit of a treat as well, which is nice. It's like, I'm the author in a coffee shop. That's quite cool. Whatever it is that you want to do to vary up your workspace, give yourself some accountability, get your body moving. All of that, I think, is really, really helpful, particularly if you spend days at a time not really leaving the house, which you can when you work from home. I work in schools a couple of days a week, so that helps to break the week up. But when I'm not in schools, I have even more of a tendency to make sure I start my day with exercise, to try and go and meet someone for a coffee, for like a work chat networking thing, take advantage of those sorts of tasks. So I really think it's helpful. Try and get some movement, try and get outside and vary things up during the day. It really helps your head to work as well as possible. It's just good for you. Getting outside, all of that, it really does help your mental health anyway. So I think it's all good stuff. Number 4 is to allow yourself to rest. This obviously ties in a little bit with having that cut-off time, but also I think when you run your own business, when you're a creative, all of these things give you a tendency to never let go. And it's really important to give yourself time off. So I see 2 different possible contexts for this. One is literal days off. So I was a person that would always take my laptop on holiday with me. I found it very hard to be separated because if there was a chance that I could do some work for a couple of hours, then I would do that. I don't do that anymore. We went away to Portugal earlier in the year. Didn't take my laptop. My work emails were on my phone and I did check them once a day. My husband at the time, he's still my husband, but at the time, my husband was also self-employed, so he was checking his work emails too. Didn't really go beyond that. We just dealt with little bits and pieces that we needed to do, but it was minutes. It wasn't, I've brought my work with me on holiday. So I allow myself days off. I'll spend a day with the kids and I won't check anything to do with work, and I will schedule that in. Obviously, with the whole situation with the kids, I do need to have a certain amount of flexibility around the holidays, and I'm a lot better at literally leaving the work stuff and focusing 100% on the kids. I used to struggle a lot more with that than I do now. So literally taking days off, you can schedule these in and give yourself leave. I've done that before when I know that there's been a big project. I know that I'm going to be overwhelmed. I know I'm going to be working a lot of hours. So when I published Seagrass Meadows, afterwards I took a week off and I spent my time catching up on all of the home stuff. We've moved last year, so all of the decorating and the bits that had slid while I was working really hard, but just having some head space. So yeah, you can literally put in your calendar that you are on leave and give yourself time off, because let's face it, if you had a job where you're going into a workplace, you would be entitled to annual leave and you would take it. So give yourself annual leave. The other context that I was going to talk about is if you are ill. So I will tend to work when I'm ill. Yes, I was emailing people in hospital when I had appendicitis. It's ridiculous, I know. But if you're sick, you can take the day off. It's so tempting to go, well, I can just work from home, I'm okay. No, if you need to rest, you need to rest. Equally, if you've had a terrible night's sleep or whatever, or something emotional happened in your life, nobody's expecting you to be at your desk. You can take a duvet day because you're the boss. So I think you can take that power. Most of us will work too much. So we're not going to be taking every day that's possible. So on the odd occasion that you do and you need it, take those opportunities. So I'm not very good at this. I'm getting better. Also, if I'm really, really shattered and I'm struggling to focus, I'll let myself have a nap. Now, that might sound, she's sleeping during her workday. I did this when I had a corporate job. We didn't have a canteen where you could eat like a packed lunch. You had to buy food, and a lot of people just went home. I used to go and drive to the seafront and sleep in my car. So I've got previous. I would do this in a corporate job. I'm allowed to take a tea break during my working day. I am my own boss. I can choose to do that. And if I want to lie down, close my eyes for 20 minutes, I can do that. And I think it's remembering those luxuries of working for yourself and working from home, that you can just have a sleep if you're struggling, and then you'll focus better afterwards. You can decide to take the afternoon off to have coffee with a friend. You know what your work deadlines are and how intense things are for you at that time, and whether you can afford to take that time. But if it's going to give you better mental health, make you happier, make you healthier, then do it, because you can, you know. You actually can be your own boss. I think I'm telling myself these things. Yeah, allow yourself to rest. You know whether you have to work and work and work to meet a deadline, or whether you're being a workaholic. So allow yourself rest when you need it. My next one, I've got two more. So number 5 is to accept that you are imperfect. Now, I think that this gets easier with time. When there was a meme that was going around that was talking about the best way to find a mistake in your book is to have it professionally proofread, all the beta readers looked at it, you've looked at it a million times, it's all perfect, you publish it, and then let the book fall open on a random page and you'll spot the typo. I have literally done this. I've had the bulk order arrive, I've opened the first book, the first page I opened it, there's a mistake. Many books, possibly all books, have little errors in them. Some of them have really big errors. As a reader, I like seeing them. It makes me smile. It's always made me feel kind of like smart. Oh, look, they spelt that wrong. It's a whole thing. It happens. Nobody's perfect. No writer is perfect. No editor is perfect. Nothing will pick up 100% of the mistakes, and you could always tweak the text a little bit more or the images a little bit more, and there will always be things that bug you. Even if it is perfectly, like, no typos, no grammatical errors, nothing, there will still be certain phrasings that you're not 100% happy with. And it's okay. You can be imperfect. You are imperfect. We all are. That's what makes us human. So yes, strive for perfection. Strive for doing your job as well as you can, but accept that you're not perfect. And often when we have these issues, there are ways of dealing with them. Step away from it. It's fine. And then how do we deal with it? Accept that you made a mistake. It's okay. I'll give you an example. In Milk and Cookies, my URL for my website is incorrect. And I didn't notice it. Nobody noticed it. It was after the professional edits that a change was made. So don't go for the editor. It's not her fault, it's mine. And yeah, my URL is wrong, and I noticed it when 300 books turned up at my door. I picked up the first one and I spotted the typo immediately. I was gutted, I panicked completely, and my husband helped me deal with it. He said, well, buy that URL and forward it to yours. And I was like, oh yeah, this is fine, I can deal with it. Amazing. So sometimes you can have these things and you can just, it's fixable. Other times it's not fixable, but it doesn't matter, you know, we're not perfect. I think it's great to celebrate these mistakes. A great example, and I don't think that she'll mind me saying this, Kirsten McNeil, follow her, she's fantastic. Her first book, she got it, like got the bulk order, opened it up. First thing she sees is that the word weird is spelt incorrectly. Now, this had been through editors, beta readers, she'd looked at it a million times, somehow nobody had seen it. It just happens. And what did she do? She celebrated it, she shared it online, she's always said, like, look at this, like, of all the words to spell incorrectly, I've spelt weird in a weird way, and she celebrated it. And I think that's awesome, because none of us are perfect. Her book's brilliant. There's an error in it. There's an error in all the books. So I think just accept you're not perfect, and it's okay. You can try to be perfect, but then let it go when you're not. So yeah, I've got one more for you. Number 6. And I think this is linked to the previous one as sort of a mind shift kind of a thing, which is to have some perspective, to talk to yourself, have that self-talk of perspective, that it's only a book. And I know it doesn't feel like only a book. I know that the reason that you've gone to all this effort to publish this book is because it's important. The messages within the book, the beauty of it, the creativity behind it is important. A lot of us indies have real, like, work from our heart that we are sharing. Any creative is sharing things that they care really deeply about. A huge amount of work has gone into this because it's important, but it is only a book. And so I think that separation is really difficult, to strive for it, to know it matters, to tell people how much it matters, but then to also say to yourself, it is only a book. It's not that important. In the grand scheme of things, it is okay. If you make a mistake, if you make a wrong decision, if something doesn't go to plan, if something about the book wasn't exactly what you'd visualised, if it doesn't sell as well as you thought it would, or whatever issues there are, when you're panicking about it, you're worrying about it, and all of that anxiety is swirling, try to remind yourself, it is just a book, you know? Yes, we want people to love our stories, to share them, to read them, and it'd be their favourite thing they've ever read, and it's life-changing and all of that. Yes, as book lovers, we know that this stuff is important, but it's only a book. Your readers don't want you to mess with your mental health. They want you to be a happy writer who loves writing and is having a great time and is putting out this work that they are just delighted about. They don't want you to be descending into a pit of anxiety. So yeah, I just think, have that perspective. Yes, someone might notice that there's an issue, or perhaps there's a problem that means that the book didn't come out on the exact day that you thought that it should, but it's only a book. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Again, I'm telling myself this. But there are definitely times when I've felt that rising panic and I've said to myself, it's just a book. It's okay. Let it go. You know, there are more important things. My family, my friends, my life is more important to my well-being and my happiness than this book. And just giving yourself that perspective can be really, really helpful. It's not easy, but it's helpful. So those are 6 things. I hope that those are really helpful. If they're things that you maybe haven't thought about before or you haven't tried, like I said, there's a couple of practical bits and a couple of mind shift bits. Definitely put in the comments below anything that you found helpful, because I think a lot of us do feel this stuff. So if you've got a top tip, please do share it, because it just helps everyone. And I mean, that's why I make all of these videos, is just to sort of share and be helpful. So yeah, let's make the comments helpful as well. I hope that's been useful, and you know, as someone who sometimes has made themselves rather excessively anxious over a book, I just hope that you have really lovely, relaxed, enjoyable book projects, and that if you are feeling anxious, that you find ways to cope with it, because this is a really great career. And I have days where I think, why do I do this to myself? But it's brilliant, and we're in it because we love it and we're passionate about it. So if we can deal with the stuff, then you know, this can be the best job in the world. There we go. I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit like, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. There's loads of author videos here on this channel. Go take a look, tons of stuff, and I'll see you all soon for my next one. Take care.